know that you need to respect your teacher and you need to listen when she tells a story? That's respect. Does anyone here... Now, just a minute, Stephen, I haven't asked the question yet. Stephen, stand up like you're taught to do when you're called on. And tell us what your definition of respect is.
Well, Mama tells me that I'm not supposed to burp at Sunday dinner.
No burping anytime it's rude.
And I'm not supposed to fart.
Yes.
Don't pick my nose. And what was that third thing?
Finger out of the...
Oh! If you scratch and you've got itches, don't scratch, especially when they're in your britches.
Oh, Stephen.
I know one.
What, Carly? Carly.
Mommy always said, keep your fly zipped.
Class, now this is getting kind of out of hand. And I think we just better kind of wait a minute before we start the story to get you in another kind of mood. But you know that respect has other meanings other than what you said, like kindness, quietness, and gentleness, and just plain old respect. But if you pick your nose and scratch and all that stuff, do it somewhere else. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the story. And remember, the word for today for our class is, say it with me, class, respect. That means you don't talk to your neighbor and giggle and act goofy. You're going to look up here at me and act goofy. Anyway, I will have a time out here. All right. Oh, you remember, kids, every Christmas I've done this story in my class, and you know it by heart, but you're still going to act like you never have heard it, right? Okay. On Christmas Eve, many years ago, I lay quietly in my bed. I did not rustle the sheets. I breathed slowly and silently. I was listening for a sound a friend had told me that I would never hear, the ringing bells of Santa's sleigh. But there is no Santa, he said. But I knew he was wrong. Late that night, I did hear sounds, though not of ringing bells. From outside came the sounds of a hissing steam and squeaking metal. I looked through my window and saw a train stopped right in front of my house, not even moving, just sitting there. It was wrapped in an apron of steam, and snowflakes were falling all around it. And a conductor stood at the open door of one of the cars, took a large pocket watch from his vest, and looked up at my window. I put on my slippers and robe and tiptoed downstairs and right out the door. And you know what he said? He said, "All aboard! All aboard! Everybody come!" And he looked at me and he said, "Are you going to come, son?" "Come where? Where are we going?" "We're going on the Polar Express to the North Pole to see Santa." "Oh, okay." So he helped me on the train, and I was set to go. The train was filled with children, all in their pajamas and nightgowns. And we sang Christmas carols, and we ate candies with white nougat centers as thick as white as snow. We drank hot cocoa as hot and cold as in as a milk chocolate bar. Outside, the lights of the towns and the villages flickered in the distance as the Polar Express raced northward. Carla, what is your problem? Did you forget our lesson? Did you push her down? You ought to be ashamed. You want to come up here and sit in the fine out chair?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you just remember our lesson on respect. You're not scratching. You're not picking your nose. But you're pestering Carla. Now, Carla, let's don't have that happen anymore. Okay?
Carla gave me a wedgie.
Yes, you did.
Girls,
She did.
Girls.
I saw it.
would both of you like to take a trip to the principal's office? Would you? Would you? Would you lose your gold star off the chart? You know, when you get all your gold stars, we're having a pizza party. Do you want to keep everybody from having a pizza party?
I want pizza.
How about you, Carla? Do you like pizza?
No.
Well, she doesn't like pizza. Well, you could stand out in the hall while we have the party then. How would that be? All right. Back to the story. Meanwhile, back on the party. Soon there were no more lights to be seen. We traveled through the cold, dark forest where lean wolves roamed and white-tailed rabbits hid from our train as it thundered through the quiet wilderness. We climbed mountains so high it seemed as if we would scrape the moon, but the Polar Express never slowed down. Faster and faster we ran along, rolling over peaks and through valleys like a car on a roller coaster. The mountains turned into hills, the hills had the snow-covered plains, and we crossed a barren desert of ice, the great polar ice cap. Lights appeared in the distance. They looked like the lights of a strange ocean liner sailing on a frozen sea. There, said the conductor, is the North Pole. The North Pole. It was a huge city set up on a hill, all by itself on top of the world, but it was a place where every single toy you can think of was manufactured right there. At first, we saw no elves at all. They are gathering in the center of the city, the conductor told us. That is where Santa will give the gift of the first gift of Christmas. Who receives the gift? We all asked. The conductor answered, he will choose whom he wants. Look, shouted one of the children, the elves. Outside we saw hundreds of elves. As our train drew closer to the center of the North Pole, we slowed to a crawl because it was so crowded with elves and Santa's helpers. When the Polar Express could go no further, we stopped and the conductor let us get out and go outside. We passed through the crowd to the edge of a large open circle. In front of us stood Santa's sleigh. The reindeer were so excited they were prancing and making noises and pacing and ringing the silver sleigh bells that hung from the harnesses around their neck. It was a magical sound. It was like nothing I had ever heard. Across the circle, the elves moved apart and Santa appeared. The elves cheered wildly. He marched over to us and pointing to me, he said, let's have this little guy right here. And I said, me? Yes, sir. Hop up on my knee, he said. Now what would you like for Christmas, little feller? I knew I could ask for anything in the world I wanted. Anything at all. But there was only one thing I wanted more than anything in the world, and it was not inside his bag. What I wanted was one silver bell from Santa's sleigh. When I asked, Santa smiled. Then he gave me a hug and told an elf to cut a bell from a reindeer's harness. The elf tossed it up to Santa, and he caught it, and holding it up, he said, this is the first gift of Christmas. A clock struck midnight as the elves gathered around. and Santa handed the bell to me, and I put it in my bathrobe pocket. The conductor helped me down from the sleigh. Santa shouted out the reindeers' names, cracked his whip, his team circled us, and off into the distance of the cold, dark sky disappeared. Back on the Polar Express, the other children asked to see my bell. I reached into my pocket, but it was gone. All I felt in my pocket was a hole. I had lost the bell, the only thing I ever wanted in the whole world. "Let's hurry and go outside and look for it," a little girl said. No, it's too late. The train gave a sudden lurch and started moving. We were on our way home. Very, very sadly, I got off at my house. My heart was broken that I had lost the silver bell, the only thing I ever wanted. I stood at my doorway and waved goodbye, and the conductor said something from way off the moving train, but I couldn't understand him. And finally, he cupped his hands around his mouth and said, "Merry Christmas!" And I sat back in the house, listening to the blast of the whistle as the train rode out of my life. On Christmas morning, my little sister Sarah and I opened our presents. When it looked as if everything had been unwrapped, Sarah found one last small box behind the tree. It had my name on it. Inside was the silver bell. The silver bell. There was a note. "Found this on the seat of my sleigh. Fix this hole, young man. See you next year. Merry Christmas." Signed, Mr. C. I shook the bell. It made the most beautiful sound my sister and I'd ever heard. But my mother said, "That's too bad." And my daddy said, "It's broken." My parents had not heard the beautiful sound that I heard on the bell. As time went on, most of my friends could hear the bell for a while, but as the years passed by, it fell silent for all of them, even Sarah. She found one Christmas after she could no longer hear its sound. Though I've grown old, the bell still rings for me, as it does for everyone who truly believes. Okay, class, what do you think? Did you enjoy that? Yes, Megan. Thank you, Maggie. Okay, I'm going to wish you all a Merry Christmas, and we will have our class as soon as you get back from Christmas break, and we'll have a pizza party. I'm going to let you get by this time, you little boogers. And we will go ahead and have our party. And you are dismissed for your next hour class. Merry Christmas. I want to give you a PS to this. The story you got today, not the Polar Express, but the Trimmings, are true stories. I taught special ed for 22 years, and I could write a book on the things that they had to scratch and all that stuff. And you learned to either go out in the hall and die laughing, or you just keep it quiet and don't say anything. And those stories and memories are in my head and will be all my life, because they're so innocent. Sometimes they sometimes think the word "shut up" is a bad word. "Oh, Miss Lemons, he said a bad word," and I brace for whatever. "He said shut up." So just things like that. And so I had a lot of fun bringing back those memories of my classroom with kids, and